Sven is now 17 years old. 4 years have passed since his first raid on the Northumbrian monastery, 4 years of intensive training and preparation. He has studied warfare extensively, has trained with weapons constantly, has learned from experienced warriors like Torsten and his father Gustav. He has developed a deep understanding of strategy and tactics, has built a loyal following of young warriors who respect him and who are willing to follow him into battle. But he has not yet participated in actual combat. That is about to change. Earl Einar announces that he will be organizing a major raid on the coast of East Anglia. This raid will be larger than the one 4 years earlier, involving perhaps 400 warriors and a dozen ships. The target is a wealthy settlement that has been raided before but that has rebuilt its wealth. Einar expects the raid to be successful and profitable, but he also expects it to be dangerous. The defenders of the settlement will be well prepared, and the Vikings will face significant resistance. Einar calls Sven to a private meeting and tells him that Sven will participate in this raid, but this time Sven will not be in a support role. This time Sven will be expected to participate in actual combat, to fight alongside the other warriors, to prove himself as a skilled fighter. Einar tells Sven that he has been watching Sven's development for 4 years, that he is confident that Sven is ready for this challenge, that Sven has the skills and the discipline necessary to succeed in real combat. Sven is both excited and terrified by this news. He has been preparing for this moment his entire life, but now that it is here, he is acutely aware of how much he still has to learn. How many things could go wrong? He could be killed. He could panic in the midst of combat and endanger his comrades. He could make a mistake that costs lives. But Sven also understands that this is the moment he has been waiting for, the opportunity to prove himself, to establish himself as a true warrior. He accepts Einar's challenge without hesitation, understanding that this is the crucial test of his abilities, that his performance in this raid will shape his reputation for years to come. In the weeks following Einar's announcement, Sven prepares intensively for the raid. He works with Torsten on a daily basis, practicing combat scenarios, learning how to respond to unexpected situations, developing the reflexes and the instincts that will keep him alive in real combat. He also spends time with his father Gustav, who offers advice based on his own experience in warfare, who helps Sven to prepare himself mentally for the violence to come. Gustav tells his son that the most important thing in combat is to remain calm and focused. Gustav explains that fear is natural, that even the most experienced warriors feel fear before combat. But Gustav tells Sven that the key is to acknowledge the fear and then to set it aside, to focus on the task at hand, to maintain discipline and control even in the midst of chaos and danger. Gustav also tells Sven that combat is not like training. In training, mistakes are not fatal. In combat, a single mistake can result in death. Gustav advises Sven to be cautious, to not take unnecessary risks, to focus on surviving and on protecting his comrades rather than on achieving glory or on proving himself through reckless bravery. Sven listens carefully to his father's advice and takes it seriously. He understands that Gustav's experience and wisdom are invaluable, that his father's guidance has been instrumental in his success so far. He commits himself to following his father's advice, to remaining calm and focused in combat, to prioritizing survival and the protection of his comrades over personal glory. Sven also spends time with the group of young warriors who have become his closest followers. These are men who have trained with Sven, who have learned from him, who respect him, and who are willing to follow him into battle. Sven tells these warriors that he expects them to remain calm and focused in combat, to maintain formation, to protect one another. He tells them that their survival depends on their discipline and their coordination, that they must work together as a unit rather than as individuals. The night before the raid, Sven cannot sleep. He lies in his bed, reviewing everything that he has learned about combat, thinking about the different scenarios that he might encounter, preparing himself mentally for the violence to come. He thinks about the possibility of death, about the possibility that this raid might be his last, about the possibility that he might not return to Kaupang alive. But Sven also thinks about what he will accomplish if he succeeds. He thinks about the reputation that he will build, about the respect that he will earn from other warriors, about the position that he will establish for himself in the Viking world. He thinks about his family, about his father Gustav and his mother Astrid and his sister Ingrid, about how proud they will be if he succeeds. Early the next morning, the raid force assembles at the harbor. There are perhaps 400 warriors in total. A formidable force. Earl Einar commands the operation, with several experienced warriors serving as his lieutenants. Sven stands among the warriors, with his father Gustav at his side. Sven is one of the younger warriors in the force, but he is also one of the most prepared, one of the most trained, one of the most disciplined. The warriors board the ships, and the raid force sets out toward East Anglia. The journey takes several days. During the journey, Sven observes everything. He watches how the experienced warriors prepare themselves for combat, how they maintain their weapons, how they interact with one another. He listens to their conversations, learning about previous raids, about tactics and strategy, about the dangers they have faced. As the raid force approaches the coast of East Anglia, tension begins to build. The warriors check their weapons, ensure that their armor is properly fitted, prepare themselves mentally for the violence to come. Sven feels his heart pounding in his chest, feels the adrenaline beginning to flow through his body. He is terrified, but he is also ready. The settlement comes into view. It is larger than Sven expected, with wooden palisades and defensive positions. There are warriors moving about, and a small garrison of armed men defending the settlement. This is not going to be an easy raid. Earl Einar explains the plan. The warriors will approach from the sea, attempting to breach the palisades at their weakest point. Once they are inside, they will move quickly to gather the settlement's wealth. The raid should be completed quickly before reinforcements can arrive from nearby settlements. As the warriors prepare to attack, Sven feels his fear intensifying. This is the moment he has been preparing for, but now that it is here, he is acutely aware of the reality of what is about to happen. Real people are going to die. He might be one of them. The attack begins with a shower of arrows from the Viking archers. The defenders of the settlement respond with their own arrows, and several Vikings fall before they even reach the palisades. Sven is shocked by the violence, by the sudden death of warriors he has seen alive just moments before. The Vikings begin to scale the palisades using ladders and ropes. Gustav moves forward with the assault force, and Sven follows him, staying close, trying to stay focused. As they reach the top of the palisade, Sven sees defenders coming toward them with spears and swords. This is it. This is the moment. Sven draws his sword and prepares to fight. The first defender comes at Sven with a spear. Sven sidesteps the attack and strikes at the defender with his sword. The blade connects with the defender's arm, drawing blood. The defender cries out in pain and falls back, and Sven presses forward, following the training that he has received, maintaining his discipline and his focus. More defenders come, and Sven fights them off, one after another. His training takes over, his reflexes and his instincts guiding his movements. He is no longer thinking consciously about what he is doing. He is simply reacting, responding to the attacks of his opponents, striking when the opportunity presents itself, defending himself when necessary. Time seems to slow down. Sven is aware of everything happening around him. The clash of weapons, the screams of the wounded, the smell of blood and sweat. He is aware of his father Gustav fighting beside him, aware of his followers fighting nearby, aware of the other Vikings moving through the settlement, gathering plunder, overwhelming the defenders through superior numbers and ferocity. Sven kills his first man. It happens almost without Sven realizing it. A defender comes at him with a sword, and Sven parries the attack and strikes back. His sword finds the defender's chest, and the man falls. Sven feels a shock of realization. He has killed a man. He has taken a human life. But there is no time to process this realization. More defenders are coming, and Sven must continue fighting. He continues to fight, continues to kill, continues to move forward with the assault force. The defenders are overwhelmed. The Vikings are simply too numerous, too well-trained, too ferocious. The defenders begin to fall back, attempting to retreat into the settlement. The Vikings pursue them, continuing to fight, continuing to kill. The raid continues for perhaps an hour. The Vikings overwhelm the defenders through sheer numbers and ferocity. The settlement's wealth is gathered: gold, silver, weapons, and other valuable items. But the victory comes at a cost. Several Vikings are killed, and many more are wounded. Sven sees warriors he has known his entire life fall in combat, their bodies left behind as the Vikings continue their work of looting and gathering plunder. As the warriors retreat to their ships, Sven helps carry the plunder, helping to load it onto the vessels. He is in shock from what he has experienced. The reality of warfare is far more brutal and far more chaotic than he had imagined, even with all of his training and preparation. He has killed men, has seen men die, has witnessed the violence and the chaos of real warfare firsthand. During the journey back to Kaupang, Sven is quiet. Gustav allows his son to process what he has experienced. He does not try to minimize the violence or to pretend that what happened was glorious or heroic. Instead, he simply lets Sven know that he performed well in his first combat experience, that he stayed focused and disciplined, that he will become an even more skilled warrior if he continues to train and to learn. When the raid force arrives back in Kaupang, Sven is greeted as a warrior who has participated in a successful raid and who has proven himself in actual combat. The other warriors acknowledge his participation, and there is a sense of celebration about the wealth that has been brought back. But Sven feels conflicted. He is proud of what he has accomplished, but he is also disturbed by what he has experienced. That night, Sven sits alone on the beach, looking out at the sea. He thinks about the men he has killed, about their families who will grieve for them, about the violence and the chaos that he has witnessed. He thinks about the reality of the Viking world that he is entering, about the burden of taking human lives. His father finds him there and sits down beside him. "This is the life you have chosen," Gustav says. "It is not always easy, and it is not always right. But it is the life of a Viking warrior. You must accept both the glory and the burden." Sven nods, understanding that his life has changed fundamentally. He is no longer a boy. He is a warrior. He has killed men in combat, has proven himself in actual warfare, has established himself as a skilled fighter. He has not yet become a great leader, but he has taken the first step on that path. In the days following his return to Kaupang, Sven begins to process his experience. The nightmares do come, vivid dreams of the combat, of the men he has killed, of the blood and the violence. But gradually the nightmares fade, and Sven begins to come to terms with what he has experienced. Sven also begins to understand the social implications of his success in combat. Warriors who had previously viewed him with skepticism or indifference now treat him with respect. They acknowledge him as a true warrior, as someone who has proven himself in actual combat, as someone worthy of respect and of following into battle. Bjorn observes Sven's success with frustration and jealousy. Bjorn had hoped that Sven would fail in his first combat experience, that Sven would be killed or humiliated, that Sven's reputation would be destroyed. Instead, Sven has succeeded, has proven himself as a skilled warrior, has enhanced his reputation significantly. Bjorn recognizes that Sven is now a serious threat, that Sven is no longer just a promising young warrior, but is now an established warrior with a proven track record of success. Earl Einar is pleased by Sven's performance in the raid. The Earl recognizes that Sven has performed well in his first combat experience, that he has demonstrated the skills and the discipline necessary to succeed in warfare, that he has proven himself worthy of Einar's confidence in him. Einar begins to think more seriously about Sven's future, about the possibility that Sven might eventually become his successor, about the possibility that Sven might eventually lead the Viking forces of Kaupang. As Episode 7 comes to a close, Sven is 17 years old and has just crossed a crucial threshold. He has participated in his first real combat experience, has killed men in warfare, has proven himself as a skilled warrior. He has not yet become a great leader, but he has established himself as a warrior worthy of respect and of following. The path ahead is still uncertain, but Sven is confident that he is on the right track. He understands that his success in this first raid is just the beginning, that he will need to participate in many more raids, to continue building his reputation, to continue developing his abilities as a warrior and as a leader. But he is confident that he has the skills and the discipline necessary to succeed, that he will eventually become one of the greatest leaders of his generation. The saga of Sven Gustafsson is entering a new phase, one in which he will begin to establish himself as a true warrior and a true leader, one in which he will begin to pursue his ambitions more actively, one in which he will begin to build the power base that will eventually make him one of the most powerful leaders in Scandinavia. In the weeks following the raid, Sven's reputation grows significantly. Warriors now acknowledge him as a skilled fighter, and young warriors seek him out for training. Sven's following grows, and with it, his influence. Earl Einar publicly acknowledges Sven's success, praising his courage and skill. Other leaders begin to seek Sven's counsel on matters of strategy and tactics. During this period, Sven also begins to think more seriously about his future. He understands that he has taken an important step, that he has established himself as a warrior worthy of respect. But he also understands that this is just the beginning, that he will need to continue building his reputation, to continue developing his abilities, to continue pursuing his ambitions. Sven begins to think about leading his own expeditions, about organizing his own raids, about establishing himself as an independent leader rather than simply serving under Earl Einar. This is a dangerous thought because it could be seen as disloyal to Einar, but Sven understands that this is the natural progression for an ambitious young warrior. Eventually, he will need to establish his own power base, to build his own following, to pursue his own ambitions. For now, however, Sven remains focused on building his reputation and his skills. He participates in additional raids under Einar's command, continues to prove himself in combat, continues to build his following of loyal warriors. With each raid, his reputation grows, his skills improve, his confidence increases. Sven's mother Astrid is relieved that her son has survived his first combat experience. She had worried constantly while he was away, had prayed to the gods for his protection. Now that he has returned safely, she is grateful, but she is also more acutely aware of the dangers he will face. Sven's sister Ingrid is proud of her brother's achievement. She celebrates his return, asking questions about the raid and the combat. She understands that her brother is pursuing a path that will eventually take him far from Kaupang. Ingrid also continues to develop her own interests and her own ambitions. She has become increasingly interested in the business of commerce and trade, and she spends time with merchants and traders learning about their operations. Ingrid is beginning to develop her own ideas about how to build wealth and power through commerce, and she is starting to think about how she might use these skills to establish herself as a powerful figure in her own right. The relationship between Sven and Ingrid remains close, despite the fact that they are pursuing very different paths. Sven is focused on military power and warfare, while Ingrid is focused on commerce and economics. But they recognize that these two paths are complementary, that a truly great leader must understand both warfare and commerce, and that their different skills and knowledge can be combined to create something greater than either of them could achieve alone. As Episode 7 comes to a close, Sven has successfully crossed the threshold from young warrior to established warrior. He has participated in his first real combat experience, has killed men in warfare, has proven himself as a skilled fighter. He has established a loyal following of warriors who respect him and who are willing to follow him into battle. He has earned the respect of experienced warriors like Torsten and his father Gustav, and he has earned the recognition of Earl Einar and other leaders in Kaupang. The path ahead is still uncertain, but Sven is confident that he is on the right track. He understands that he has taken an important step, that he has established himself as a warrior worthy of respect and of following. He also understands that this is just the beginning, that he will need to continue building his reputation, to continue developing his abilities, to continue pursuing his ambitions. Sven is now ready to pursue his dreams of leading expeditions to England, of establishing himself as a major force in the Viking world, of building an empire that will last for generations. The saga of Sven Gustafsson is entering a new phase, one in which he will begin to establish himself as a true leader, one in which he will begin to pursue his ambitions more actively, one in which he will begin to build the power base that will eventually make him one of the most powerful leaders in Scandinavia.